Let's face it, living in our fast-paced, ever-changing daily lives can be exhausting. Just anticipating a busy day at work can be overwhelming before it even starts. Today we're talking with Spoon, the voice guy, about techniques that can create immediate calm before and after a stressful day. If you're new here, welcome. Thank you for joining me. I'm Doreca Delbridge, your career consultant and occupational psychologist. I equip introverts and highly sensitive people with functionalities that reduce work-life overwhelm so they can experience true career freedom. So today we're continuing in our theme of redefining success, which we started talking about in these videos over here. And Spoon is going to share with us techniques that bring immediate relief as we go about establishing a life and defining what success can look like for us. These are techniques that you can use before or after a stressful event, and even as you're going through a day that feels very stressful for you. So Elroy Spoonface Powell is also known as the voice guy, and you will soon discover why that is an author, actor, and consultant. Spoon started as a voice for Black Legend for their #1 hit, You See Trouble With Me. He now sources voices for high-end brand campaigns, as well as operating in front of the camera. You may have already seen him in well-known productions. Spoon has been featured in Rockin' Steven Merchant Film, Fighting With My Family, Star Wars The Force Awakens, and many more. I'll put all those details in the description down below. So Spoon, I am super excited to talk about techniques that can really help us as a community to combat stress and overwhelm.
Yeah, you're more than welcome. I like to explore several approaches, but it always starts with mindset. Starts with being honest about what is giving us discomfort, creating stress and so on in our situations. But also beyond that, giving ourselves permission. Often we're running business, we have children, we have families that we're looking after and so on. All of the responsibility often lands on our shoulders. So we feel guilty sometimes when we just pause for a moment to breathe, to connect, to unwind, to recharge. So give yourself permission. That's really at the heart of the foundation or the starting point for it, really. Beyond that, I then explore something called Savers, and it's taken from a book by a gentleman called Hal Elrod. He wrote a book called The Miracle Morning, and he encourages a morning practice of silence, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing. And so 10 minutes for each one every morning, the first thing you do as you get up. So an hour, and off you go. And you find that it really powers you, really helps you let go of the stress and really pushes you towards your goals. I found in a group that I work with, the Ready for Dreams group, that some people that were new to the practice struggled with doing a whole hour. So I brought it down to a 6-minute shot. So literally, and not just in the morning, anytime, just take a minute of silence, a minute of affirmations, telling yourself positive things. As often we beat ourselves up inside, always telling ourselves that we're not good enough, we're too old, we're too slow, we're too whatever, we don't have enough money to start this. And no, just tell yourself that you are great and say it as if you mean it, as if you have it already, and really start to feed the subconscious with positive ideas about who and what you are. Visualizing then where you want to be. Exercise is so important because then physically you connect the subconscious with a physical flow of energy throughout your body, and then you start to activate this movement towards getting reading to keep growing, and scribing to do two things. One, to connect with how you're feeling in the moment, and also then to set new goals. And I like to maybe 5 or 6 things, and maybe choose 2 or 3, even if you only do one off your list, but every day you start to inch towards where it is you hope to be. And just that self-actualization over time helps with relieving stress and making you just feel better about yourself. Beyond that, I like to do something called a progressive muscle relaxation, and maybe you could help me with that.
Okay, sure.
So I'm going to keep it really simple. We would usually spend a lot more time, but if you just close your eyes for a moment and imagine you're sat on a beach and you have no shoes on, you're nice and comfortable, and you're running your toes through the sand. Now, what we're going to do is gently from your toes upwards, and I'll talk you through it. We're going to isolate the muscles, contract and release, starting with the toes. So imagine you're picking up the sand with your toes, squeeze and hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and relax. And just take a moment to become aware of what you feel in the moment, where the tension may be, where you're now starting to release and connect and let go. And now we're going to slowly move up to your calf muscles. Contract the calf muscles. We'll give the green light. You're going to squeeze those calf muscles as hard as you can without hurting yourself, in through the nose. And squeeze. 4, 3, 2, 1, and release. And as you release, just exhale, let the air out with all of your perceived trapped energy, all of the negative thoughts, and fill the space with positive energy. Fill the space with good feelings. Remember a time in your situation where you felt good about yourself, you received something, you were successful, you achieved something. Remember those feelings and let them flow through you again and fill you as you let go of the negative energy. We're now going to contract the whole legs and the lower half of your body in through the nose and squeeze. Hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and release. And again, as you're letting go, imagine the energy that you do not want inside you dissolving away, just crumbling away. And the space that becomes available is filled with that positive, uplifting energy that you love. And now we're going to fast forward and we're just going to go to the fingers, and you're going to squeeze and make a fist in through the nose and hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Relax. And there we go. And we're just going to do this one more time. And this time we're going to do the whole body. What we're going to do is fingers, toes, abdomen, everything. You're going to squeeze as we go in through the nose. Squeeze and hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and release. And just allow yourself in that moment to just become aware of yourself. Become aware of what you're letting go of, aware of what you feel that lifts you. And slow. Allow the pace to become your pace. Breathe in a cycle of breathing that works for you. And we're going to do one more. In through the nose. Contract everything. Fingers, stomach, legs, toes. 3, 2, 1. And release. And just take your time in that moment to feel yourself let go of everything you don't need and be filled with everything that empowers you and lifts you. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. You take your time.
I almost don't want to let it go.
Right?
The
So this,
moment is just so beautiful.
talk to me. How do you feel? What did you notice?
I just how relaxed I was feeling. And when you're talking about the sand, because I grew up around the beach, so for me, the beach has such beautiful memories. It reminds me of something that was comforting. So when you're talking about that, it really took me back to my childhood. So I almost just didn't want to let go of the moment because it took me back to the place where I was my most happy. And when you're talking about remembering things that made me happy, that's what I was thinking of. And it's so amazing how a few minutes like that can just really ground you, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
You would think you would need, like you're saying, you would need the whole hour, but I can just imagine even when you don't have the whole hour, just following your teaching in that short moment, it can really just ground you and bring you back from the, like how our mind can just be racing sometimes, right? What would you suggest, maybe not in the moment that you feel stressed, but you are anticipating the day is going to be stressful, just maybe the anxiety that's building up even though they are not in a stressful situation yet? Is this kind of exercise will be helpful even for that?
Please do your own research and find what works for you. I would try a 6-minute shot, literally, of silence, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing. And when I say exercise, you don't have to, go crazy doing a lot of stuff. It could literally be holding a plank for a minute, whatever you
Right.
can in that minute. Same
Right.
with the reading. You may have a book with you or an audio book. But the
Yeah.
point is, you start to connect with your subconscious, and especially in the
Right.
scribing element of the savers exercise, you can then start to talk about how you feel and why you
Right.
feel it. At the heart of this for me is gratitude. So we're always
Mm.
going to be facing challenges and things that can lead us to ignite the fight or flight hormones and so on. But that stress, if you can think about what you are grateful for and always have that underpin everything, because when you think about being grateful, it's usually when we receive something. So that mindset, right? That mindset of feeling good,
Yes.
just sets the tone.
Yes. It
And
makes
so
you feel
just
full.
6 minutes. Yeah. and
Yeah.
then to start to develop your own mechanisms for dealing with when the stress comes, managing the distance before
Mm.
you're actually in the storm.
Right. Yeah. Because my audience, just like myself, we are highly sensitive people. So a little stimulation that might be normal for the majority of people, it can be very overstimulating and over arousing for a highly sensitive person. So even just facing a day at work, it could be a job that's not even like most people see as stressful. For a highly sensitive person, it can make them like apprehensive that, oh, you're dreading the day before it's even there, like, oh, what now, what do I have to do? So let's say they've already been really highly aroused and overwhelmed with the day. When they get back home, what is the thing that you can suggest we can do, myself included, to just decompress and just get back to the center and relax?
So I like to expand upon the silence element of the savers exercise.
Mm.
Really, where put something comfortable on, grab a drink that you like, close the doors, open a window, get the temperature how you want it, and
Yeah.
just take a moment to ground and center yourself and connect.
Yeah.
And don't worry about if your mind is racing. Let it, accept it, just let it all happen,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
just exist in that silence and be present in that silence. And I feel allowing ourselves to do that is a great way to start. And again, I would recommend go through that whole savers process.
Mm.
And it seems like such a simple thing to do, but it
Right.
doesn't. It I feel for some reason we often expect it to be complicated, and
Yes.
this is often adding to the stress.
Yes.
And of course, if you have medical conditions and so on, then that's a
Mm.
whole different thing. And you
Mm-hmm.
need to go and see your healthcare provider and discuss that. But in the
Yes.
short term, taking the time to give yourself permission to have these mindful moments is so important.
Yeah.
And see, I love martial arts. I like to be active. I find
Mm-hmm.
when I then go and throw myself around for a couple hours and so on, that helps
Yeah.
me let go of stress and gets the
Yeah.
good hormones, the
Good.
moving
Yeah.
around us.
Yeah.
So generally that will shift the mood.
Yeah.
But I think also from the inside out, nutrition is so important.
Mm.
Are you drinking too much coffee? Are you drinking
Mm.
alcohol? Are you smoking? Are you,
Yes.
what are you putting into your body?
Mm.
As well as the environment you're in. Are you
Right.
around toxic people that are
Mm.
throwing negative energy at you, and so
Yeah.
on? And we have to be honest about that, because in the long term, it will just build up and become worse and lead to other ailments, hypertension and so on, and other stress-related illnesses.
Yes.
So it's so important we look at the environment, and if you follow people like Dr. Bruce Lipton and epigenetics
Mm-hmm.
and so on, and how
Mm-hmm.
our perception of our environment can have an
Yes.
impact on our well-being,
Yeah.
it's so important to get the
Yes.
environment right.
Yes, it really is. And I think as you're talking about that, I'm imagining it's almost like taking a 360 of your life, really, and trying to assess what areas maybe you are not really tapping into yet. Is it nutrition that you could kind of do better with? Is it people that you're interacting with? And some things might be difficult, like, if a person works in an environment that doesn't align with them, that can be a difficult situation because they have to be at work, right? They can't avoid
Yeah.
those people. And they have to somehow interact with those people, and just being aware that can be helpful. So if someone is finding themselves in the midst of, like, let's say a day at work, and they just can feel themselves getting to a place they can cope, would you say those like few minutes of the breathing, like the exercise we just gone through, is that something that can really help and ground them, like just take a few minutes, or is there something else?
For me, I find that useful. Literally, there are some things that we just don't have control over, but what we do
Yes.
have control over is our response, our choices around these, how we respond to our emotions and a situation that may arise. So if you
Yeah.
can take yourself away from that situation for a moment,
Mm. Mm.
please do so.
Yeah.
And then long term, it may be that you have to change jobs, you have to change professions, look
Yeah.
at working in a different industry.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I get it. Some people will potentially say, well, this is all I can do for now. But then you have to weigh up your health. What is more important? Because you can have
Yeah.
all the money in the world.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not happy, if you're not in a place of peace, that's going to
Yeah.
have an impact on your health.
Yeah. What's the cost, right?
Priceless.
That was the cost, because sometimes the cost, as you say, that's what I always talk about. How much is this costing you? And it's not costing you just financially. How much is it costing you in the quality of your life? Because if you are in a situation that's costing you your health and everything else, and I've been there, I've had burnouts to the point that, developed health complications with my immune system, and all my hair fell out because I was just that overly stressed for a very prolonged time. So it's very, very important for us to weigh and see what is it that we're actually trying to achieve long term. And even if you can't make the change short term, like you're saying, assess where you could move into, like make a plan to see when can you exit that situation. And in the meantime, implement, not just in the meantime, because this, I believe this should be like a lifestyle, right? Like implementing these exercises. It's a way to adapt in a life that is always fast paced, right? Most people do feel we live in a world that's fast paced, too much of everything. So trying to filter what that makes sense, I think is really important. So I'm interested to know, what do you do and how do you help people?
Sure, thank you. And I share what you're saying, the sentiments, what you're saying there, because I also went through burnout, working in the
Mm,
music industry, number
yeah,
one record,
yeah,
outperforming 4 or 5 times a night often,
yeah,
and constantly driving to be in the charts. When's the next number one single that you're gonna have?
yeah,
And that's a lot of pressure that we put on ourselves.